All of set 2 has just been revealed, so I figure it's time for a new video. I've actually been in the Pixelborn Labs a bit, testing out a bunch of different deck setups, and today I'll cover the Purple Bounce core package. I started with the green-purple base, but there were so many games I just seriously needed a board wipe, and with all the crazy resist characters running around, I decided to switch to purple-red just to play Mauis and be prepareds. Now, Pixelborn hasn't fully implemented all of the set 2 cards, but for testing purposes, it'll probably be out in about a week or so. But since we have access to most of the Merlin and Madame Mim cards, I figured this would be a great place to start brewing for the next set. This is the deck base we're working with while we wait for the rest of the cards to be fully implemented into Pixelborn. I'll talk about potential card swaps and additions at the end of the video. The deck wants to run 8 to 12 1-drops, as you need these cards for early lore, and you want one of these at all times to be able to bounce around and play again cheaply. I went with 4 Pascals, 4 Minnie Mouse, and 2 Archimedes. 4 Pascals are core to the build, and the other 1-drops can be subbed in for different 1-drops. The 2-drop slot has Pinocchio, LeFou, and Madame Mim Snake. Pinocchio is an absolute monster, and in this deck he can easily swing at least twice consistently with all the bounce and protection you offer him. LeFou offers some neat combat tricks with Maui or Pinocchio protection, and it's also decent against defensive bodyguards. He might be replaceable. Madame Mim Snake is a solid 3/3 body with a bounce effect. I actually think she could be cut down or replaced, but otherwise she's pretty solid. The 3-drop slot has Fox Mim, Friends on the Other Side, Arthur, Maleficent Sorceress, and Evasive Minnie. Fox Mim is an absolute god in the deck. Much better than Rafiki in my opinion. I think definitely irreplaceable. Friends obviously is core to any purple decks and probably one of the best cards in purple in general. Arthur is crazy good in this deck, but he's actually not much of a 3-drop. He's more of a mid to late game powerhouse that generates crazy card advantage with your bounce cards. Maleficent is just Maleficent, usually a staple, and Evasive Minnie is probably the most replaceable slot here. For our 4-drops, we have Goat Merlin and Rabbit Merlin. Rabbit Merlin is an absolute powerhouse. Think of a Surfer Stitch, but off of steroids. He has insane synergy with any bounce, and you can be prepared and draw off your own card, which is crazy. Goat Merlin is just a super solid finisher for the last pushes of lore. I think both 4-drop slots are not that replaceable, especially the Rabbit Merlin. Maui is our only 5-drop currently, and probably one of the best red cards across both sets. Be prepared for our 7th slot, which is basically the only consistent board clear across both sets. I'm literally playing red simply because of Be Prepared and Maui's. And finally, Maleficent Dragon, just because he's a really solid card and a good endgame finisher. I'll talk a little more about him at the end of the video about possible replacements for him. But for now, let's just jump into a few games to see how the deck operates. These 3 games I'm going to show are literally the first 3 games I recorded to make a video. I've played around 20 to 30 games with red-purple, with probably over a 90% win rate. But then again, only lab testing is available, so some of the opposition might not be quite as competitive as a rank ladder would be. Here in game 1, we go first. We want 1 Pinocchio on the play, and a 1-drop, and we have both of those in our hand. We send back our Arthurs and try to get some ink or card draw. Turn 1, we ink Archimedes and decide not to play Minnie Mouse. I think if my Be Prepared was another ink, I'd play a 1-drop, but I wanted to play it safer for now and keep the Minnie Mouse for our turn 2 ink. I want to turn 2 Pinocchio into turn 3 LeFou most likely. Our opponent inks Jafar and plays Reflection. And every time someone plays Reflection, I think of this.
I have to believe that it holds some secret strategy. This card is useless.
Anyways, we draw and ink Dragon Maleficent since having our 1-drop is still nice to use as self-bounce cards, and we play Pinocchio. Our opponent inks a Tibbs and plays Dr. Facilier, so we're against red-purple, but not quite a mirror match. Having drawn a Pascal as another 1-drop, we ink Minnie Mouse and quest with Pinocchio and ready him with our LeFou. Our opponent plays Wardrobe and passes without attacking, which makes us sad because we wanted to kill his Facilier with our Madame Mim Fox. I quest with Pinocchio, and I go deep into the tank trying to figure out my best line here. I got time pressured, so I decided to Fox my LeFou and ink him to play Pascal, and sacrifice my Pinocchio since I have another one in my hand, and since my original Pinocchio already got 6 lore in. So since I was under time pressure, I didn't have enough time to quest for one with LeFou, so whoops. My opponent takes out my Pinocchio with his Dr. Facilier, and then he sings a Friends on the Other Side, and then casts a Friends on the Other Side to draw 4 cards. Then he passes it back to me. I take out Facilier with my Fox, and instead of playing Goat Merlin, I think playing Snake Mim and Pinocchio is much better pressure. If he wants to turn 5 Dragonfire my Pinocchio, that's fine with me. I decide to skip my ink this turn as I want to keep both my inkables. My opponent plays Maleficent and quests with Wardrobe and passes. On my turn, I decide I want to save my Pinocchio, and he's going to have better value than Goat Merlin, so I Fox my Pinocchio after questing and play it again after inking Goat Merlin. Be Prepared won't come out for another 2 turns from my opponent, so I want to get another hit in with Pinocchio. Doing this sequence also doesn't allow him to trade his Maleficent for anything I have on board. He trades Rafiki into my Mim Snake and Cauldrons and quests and passes. I draw a Goat Merlin, and the game is probably over. He'll have to be prepared next turn, so I play Rabbit Merlin to draw 2 cards when he be prepared. Since Be Prepared costs 7, he'll use his entire turn to play it and pass, and I'll start with initiative and tempo advantage. My opponent does have the Be Prepared, and I draw another Goat Merlin off my Rabbit Merlin. Unless he finds Ursula's or Aladdin's to reduce my lore, the game is going to be over from these 2 goats. I draw a Pinocchio as well, so I play Goat and Pinocchio, and my opponent simply decides he's had enough and concedes. Game 2, we see a very nice curve hand for going first. I toss out Goat Merlin since he's more of a mid-late game finisher card, and I draw a Minnie Mouse for our mulligan, which is perfect for our ink setup. This game I ink my owl, and I play out my Minnie Mouse with plans to follow up on turn 2 with Pinocchio and turn 3 LeFou. My opponent plays Lilo. He's actually pretty screwed here if he plays Simba turn 2, since I have both LeFou and Fox Mim in my hand. On my turn, I play Pinocchio, quest, and pass. My opponent does have the turn 2 Simba, and the game should be over. He's basically going to lose everything here, and I'm going to pull insanely ahead on lore and on board. I do have a little bit of an awkward turn here because I want to Mim Fox his Simba and kill Lilo with Minnie, but I also want to return Minnie with Mim Fox, but I can't do that, so I'll have to return the Pinocchio with my Mim Fox. It's fine though, since I just wiped his entire board for free. My opponent doesn't really have a strong turn 3 play, he just plays a small Stitch and passes. I quest and decide I want my Pinocchio on board again, since I want to finish him off quickly. So I play Snake Mim to bounce and ink my Minnie Mouse, and I go ahead and play out my Pinocchio. My opponent shifts Stitches and passes. I still don't know his second color at this point. I play Rabbit Merlin to start refilling my hand and quest with everything. On my opponent's turn, he drops some characters to refill with his Stitch engine, and finally reveals his second color to be purple. He gets rid of my Pinocchio with Stitch, opening him up to be killed by Fox Mim. And this kind of shows you why Fox Mim is just a much better Rafiki. Not only is she inkable, but that one power helps a lot. I trade my Fox for his Stitch, and kill off 2 of his high lore characters. Against yellow-purple, I can go wide, so I should be able to just play out everything in my hand eventually and win. I play another Rabbit Merlin and drop Pinocchio. My opponent plays a Maximus and sacrifices his Kuzco to draw a card. I play Maleficent to try and draw ink for Goat Merlin, and I find a Pascal which I ink and go ahead and play out my Goat Merlin. The game is basically over, and my opponent realizes this and eventually concedes. Alright, let's move on to game 3. In this game, we finally go second, so let's see how this deck plays out when we're on the draw. We have a very easy mulligan, we just get rid of our uninkables. Our opponent inks a bell and plays an item. We draw a Minnie Mouse, and I think it's good to play a 1-drop here. Our Snake Mim can always send back our Minnie Mouse back for ink if we need it. Our opponent plays out a Basil. We play our Snake Mim after questing, and then pass. Our opponent plays Fishbone Quill and inks twice, and we're a bit nervous now about Whole New World since we have a full hand. We go ahead and ink our Maleficent Dragon and play out a Maleficent. Our opponent plays a Hiram Flaversham, which I think is a really good blue draw card for the next set. Luckily, we'll have a Maui to eventually deal with him. He plays a Beast Mirror and passes. We quest on our turn and ink Pascal. Pascal isn't a very good card against steel since he dies to swords and Tinkerbells. We play a Merlin Goat on board. My opponent set up his Beast Mirror Fishbone engine, and he quests with Hiram to draw another 2 cards after sacrificing the quill. Unfortunately for him, we do have the Maui as an answer. I think Maui is a huge card in the future metagame, as he can take out Cogsworth, which I think will be one of the best blue cards in the set. And he's also just really good in general against resist characters by having an attack power of 6. I don't sing out Friends yet because the threat of Whole New World is still there, and I'd rather get the quest points in. He plays Tinkerbell and trades a Basil for my Maui. I decide to trade in my Maleficent for his Basil, since I want to limit his Tinkerbell value. I want to play Snake Mim to bounce my Goat Merlin, and play Goat Merlin again to reset his damage. This way he can't 2-for-1 me on a Tinkerbell trade on his turn. He plays 2 Bells and kills off one of my Snake Mims with Tinkerbell. On my turn, I quest and repeat the Snake Mim Goat Merlin sequence. He trades his Tinkerbell for my Snake Mim and quests in. Even though he's drawing an extra card every turn, he's out of gas and way too behind in lore. On my turn, I play Arthur and LeFou to ready my goat. He won't be able to double swords or Tinkerbell swords off Beast Mirror, so there's no way for him to clear my board with this sequence. Unfortunately, I was unable to show off how crazy good Arthur is in this video. If he quests next turn with my Goat Merlin, and then returns my goat, and I cast Goat Merlin again, the interaction of just these 2 cards swings in for 6, and I can keep doing this. Arthur is also insane with Rabbit Merlin, and if you make it to super late game, returning Maleficent Dragons with him is just a crazy interaction. So before I end the video, I want to talk about a few other candidate cards you guys can test with. I know I will be once Pixelborn implements the final set 2 cards. Hey is a mild maybe for a 2-drop slot, but he does have the best flavor text in set 2. Dragon Madam Mim is definitely worth a consideration as a finisher, though I'm not sure that she's entirely needed in the deck, so I'll have to test her out. And I'll definitely be testing a bit of Shift Mim, but I'm not overly optimistic about her potential in this deck. I could be wrong though, and she could end up being crazy good. Crab Merlin could make its way into the deck depending on the metagame, but I'd say the 3-drop slot is pretty oversaturated, so I don't really see him making the cut. I don't feel like 4-drop Wizard Merlin looks very good on paper, but I'll probably end up testing him out a little bit to see if I'm proven wrong. I think Yzma could definitely make her way into this deck. If she ends up being super good, I might sub in some of the 2-drop set 1 Yzmas for the LeFous. Can you just imagine shuffling in your Rabbit Merlin into your deck to net a total of 4 cards off that sequence? I think Red Lady Tremaine is an interesting consideration for the deck in place of Maleficent Dragon if warded characters become super problematic. I'll definitely be testing her out when she becomes available. And even though this is a red-purple video, I think you can combine the purple bounce core with a lot of other colors, and it'll be a huge presence in the metagame for set 2. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope I'll have a lot more set 2 videos for you guys in the upcoming month.